Is email marketing dead? Well, in this session, you'll learn how AI and data usher in a new email growth playbook. And I'm really excited to be here with Larry Kim. He's the founder and CEO of Customers.ai, the world's best sales outreach automation and B2C data platform used by sales and marketing at companies of all sizes. I have seen him for quite a long time, doing all incredible things in marketing, SEO. He's been awarded many different recognitions as well over the years. So I'm sure we'll get into a little bit what he's done as well through his journey. He has prepared a really great presentation for us here, and I'll mix between some questions from me relevant for the audience, and then we'll go through this to really get into some good stuff around email marketing and AI. So warm welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Navid. Great to be here.
Yeah, tell me first, maybe like, how did you, like, in terms of AI? I mean, I know you had a different platform before, it was called, I think, Mobile Monkey, and you were with WordStream, of course, you sold that. But with AI now, you're like 100% all in with Customers.ai focused on this. So tell me a little bit about that, and then we'll get into the presentation.
I just think this is it's such a transformative technology for sales and marketing workflow and personalization, and for return on investment for sales oriented marketers and creators. And so we just have to do it. That's all. I can tell you more about it in the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you get into some of that in the presentation. So let's just jump right in, and I'll come with some questions as we go here as well. So let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me today. My presentation today is about email marketing, and in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to try to challenge some of your assumptions about the email marketing challenge in terms of best practices. So just keep an open mind and let's go. Before getting into all the details of the tips and tricks that I'm going to be sharing today, I wanted to introduce myself briefly. My name is Larry Kim. I'm known for creating a company called WordStream, which was a leader in the category of Facebook and Google online advertising. This was literally my first startup. I started this in my 20s. I grew it from nothing to about a $55 million annual revenue kind of business. It was a kind of a cash cow, $60 million in earnings by 2018. This company was acquired by USA Today for almost $200 million. I only raised about $18 million in venture funding. So it was a pretty spectacular outcome. Sometimes people ask me, what the heck, Larry, how did you do that? And it's difficult to narrow it down to just one thing, but if I could kind of generalize it, I think it has to do with having a good enough product. So in this case, it was my kind of Google and Facebook ad management platform, in combination with a strong enough distribution channel for that product. And when you combine those two things, magical things can happen. Specifically for WordStream, my last business, the product was that, pay-per-click management software platform. The way that we distributed the product was mostly through search engine optimization. So if you look here on this SEMrush screen grab, you can see that domain that we created. We're just really good at publishing content and building links. And so it says it counts 4.8 million links, 76,500 referring domains estimated. This is even off a bit. It's closer to 5 million visitors per month at this point. So it's this kind of a torrent of free traffic coming in every day and selling this interesting product to those people. It was just a money printing machine. More recently, I started this business called Customers.ai. It's in the sales outreach and data space. I think it's a fantastic product. It does a lot of really interesting things. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. But as we were thinking of how to make it big in this new business, we were trying to think through what go-to-market channel should we leverage to spread this to the masses. Could it be SEO again, given that it was so powerful the last time around? And so if you look up my domain, Customers.ai, in SEMrush, we've been at this for a little while now. We've got 36,000 links from 6,000 domains. I just think it's going to be a hard slog in 2023 to, now that all the competing websites like neilpatel.com or wordstream.com or hubspot.com, they just have, I was just showing you, millions of links to create a new kind of website to try to compete on those types of keywords in 2023 just seems a bit like a suicide mission. And so a key discovery for me was just that kind of what worked in the past might not necessarily work in 2023 or beyond, and just needing to think through. Here's an example. This is actually Neil Patel, who's one of the other speakers at the summit. I think it's something like he's got sitting on 12.8 million backlinks and 128,000 referring domains. And, it's just going to be hard to, compete in this particular channel going forward with websites that have built up these formidable link profiles over the last 15, 20 years. What other things could I do to sell this product? And one thing that we leveraged heavily back 10, 15 years ago was actually Google and Facebook ads. Those were just starting out back early 2000s, 2008, 2012. Like they just weren't as popular. Like today, there's tens of millions of advertisers on these platforms, but it was less competitive. I think the challenge with these go-to-market motions today is that stuff that used to be like 5 cents a click is $10, $15, $20, $50 a click in certain geos. And same thing with Facebook ads, like the CPMs have really gone up. And so the idea here is I'm trying to motivate is that if you're a creator or mid-market kind of organization, where should you be thinking about deploying your marketing efforts? Is particularly what marketing has a lot to do with, like the channels that you choose. And there seems to be like certain channels every once in a while that come around that offer unusually high leverage. Where we ended up essentially was this idea of outbound emailing, that it's so hard to do SEO and it's so expensive to do paid. But one thing it's very easy to do in 2013 that it wasn't easy to do a decade ago is it's very easy to get the list of people. Like data is actually a lot easier to find today than it was before. There's products like ZoomInfo, Apollo. Like, why don't I just get lists from these different products and just start emailing them and bombs away sort of thing? And that's my go-to-market channel here. And of course, this did not work. It did not work at all. That the whole thing got shut down by Google and SendGrid and all the email postmasters because I was doing it very stupid. But nevertheless, I'm a very stubborn person. And over the last, call it year or two, we've been working the problem and trying to figure out how to get to this kind of magical state where we can just email our customers or customer prospects directly about the products and services that we're selling and actually make it work, where you're not getting all these spam complaints and you're not getting your emails blown up, just getting kicked off SendGrid and stuff like that. And the answer is there is a way. I will share you the secret today. It has to do with combining several important ingredients, including leveraging user intent data. That's like data around life events, around recent purchases, around website visitor information, etc. So leveraging data plus various AI-enabled email delivery tools to defeat Google's spam classification algorithms. And then additionally leveraging generative AI in the copywriting component of the email. And when you copy these three ingredients, these three pillars, what you end up with is like a fairly highly leveraged and easy to copy go-to-market template for getting your products and services or courses in front of any particular market. So my thesis today is, this idea that AI-powered, intent-driven outbound email marketing will save the day. And, if you've never heard of intent-driven outbound email marketing, don't worry. It's just a term that I'm making up right here. Conceptually, think of it as sort of inbound email marketing and outbound email marketing got together, had a baby. We can combine the best of both worlds here. Like what we love about inbound email marketing is that the engagement rates they're not bad. It's like 5, 10, 20% maybe. The thing that we hate about inbound marketing is it's like watching paint dry. Like to build up a list of 10, 20, 100,000 names could take forever. What we love about outbound email marketing is that it's super cheap and super easy to build your list. You can get to your million or 100,000 people in your ICP like in 10 seconds. The problem with this is that it's really hard to send emails to them at scale because Google's pretty good at classifying your efforts as spam. And so what if I told you that there was a way to combine these two ideas and get the best of both worlds? I'm calling this intent-driven outbound marketing, which would imply you can get tons of qualified emails at very low cost, at high speed. with reasonably high email engagement? What if it could even be higher than what you're seeing in inbound email marketing? And that's what I'm going to pitch to you today. And my first idea today to share with you is this idea of leveraging user intent data in your email marketing campaigns. So like you're probably, platforms like Google and display ads and Facebook ads, like they do leverage user intent data, like in terms of who they show the ads to. But what if you could take some of those ideas and leverage that into your email marketing strategy, specifically around harvesting data intent signals from various data providers, such as Customers.ai and others, and then turning that into email lists. Let me explain to you what do I mean by this. So this is just one example. There's tons of different sources of intent, but one of the innovations that my company, Customers.ai, has created is a website visitor identification pixel. And so what this does is if you can just put this pixel on your WordPress, on your website, basically, when a person visits your website, we can just figure out who the heck that person is. It's like, oh, there's Larry Kim. He just visited your website. So we have, using the power of AI enabled analysis, it's possible for us to figure out who 25% of these people are. And then what we can do is we can send you their contact information. So like the first name, last name, phone number, email, etc., so that you can add to email automations to send personalized emails and text messages to those leads. And this is pretty crazy. You don't have to hope for people to fill out website forms or pop-ups. We just know who these people are, and this is sort of like one of the really interesting things about the AI is that it enables the ability for product companies like me to be able to do these types of sophisticated analysis of your browser data. And the reason why this is such an interesting list generation strategy, as opposed to just buying a Zoom Info or an Apollo list of random people, is that there's intent in this data. If this is not just like a third-party list, this is more like a first-party list because it's being generated based off of your website visit, which means that it's, they've heard of you and that they're in market for the kind of the courses or services that you're providing. And so what we know from analysis is that 80% of your future customers are going to be people who previously spent time on your website recently. And so that's why this is such an interesting kind of way to think about, how do I get my list? Well, why don't I just find a source of intent, like people who visited my website recently? Because we know that people who have recently visited your website are 2 to 3 times more likely to engage with your marketing content, as well as 2 to 3 times more likely to convert to like a kind of a sale or registration in comparison to people who haven't recently visited your website. And so the big idea here is it has to do with layering in intent signals in the list generation process for outbounding. I just gave you one example of leveraging website visitor intent, but there's plenty of other ways to do this. Another one has to do with leveraging technology intent signals. Suppose you're a creator who's doing videos and training on how to grow your e-commerce business. Well, that would mean that a clue about if somebody was going to need your services could be if they installed Shopify or if they installed Klaviyo, or you see what I'm saying? So you can subscribe to these types of data intent providers and just kind of think about your ICP and what does he or she do immediately before becoming a really, really great prospect. And if you can just listen for those signals and then generate your list based off of those signals, your cold outreach campaigns become intent-driven outreach campaigns, and the results are dramatically different. Another example here, suppose you're like selling office furniture, like who the heck are you going to sell this office furniture to? Well, it's probably going to be like companies that raise tons of venture money from investors. Like this is the SEC filing for WordStream saying that we've raised $4 million. Like you should just write a little Zapier glue that listens for these signals and emails the CEOs like right away. So just there's tons of these signals like in LinkedIn and products like Apollo and Zoom Info. Like you can get signals like new hires, promotions, work anniversary, um, et cetera, et cetera. And so it doesn't end there. That like if you look hard enough, there are data products for every crazy imaginable need. Suppose you're like selling baby stuff. Like you can subscribe to life events. You recently bought a new house. Like somebody died. Someone was born. There's ways to subscribe to physical location data. So this is called geolocation data. Maybe you're like a lawyer. Well, maybe you could get data for people who walked into an emergency room at a hospital. Okay. Or if you're a vehicle maintenance company, like you can get data for people who walked into a Goodyear tire store. There's even ways to purchase intent data around recent search history, like people who have certain types of searches. Instead of just sending money to Google to appear on the search results, you can also just buy that data these days and just reach it. There's a huge difference, is what I'm trying to say, between static-based sort of demographic-based lists. That's where you just pull a list based on static demographics, like how old is this person, or where do they live, and what are their interests. Like that's pretty much the worst way you could do it. Versus these dynamic, intent-driven email lists, you can kind of listen to one or two or three of these data signals that are relevant to your business and tie that into the list generation process. This is like a substantially better strategy. What we find when we work with customers who do this, like the website intent, etc., they do see 10 times higher engagement. Like it's closer to like a 50, 60, 70% open rate. Seriously, even though this is kind of like targeted outbound emailing, even though newsletters can get 5, 10% open rates, these emails can get 50, 60, 70%. And that's just the opens. You get higher click rates, you get higher replies. The complaint rate is, it's not lower than inbound marketing, but it's substantially lower by like orders of magnitude lower than just like non-targeted cold outreach. And it's low enough that it sends all the good signals to Gmail in terms of high engagement rate and low complaint rate, which dramatically increases your email deliverability. So I said,
Larry, just a question on this. Just one question on this, because this is more like if this was mass email, I guess this is more counted like as cold email when they come to your website and you collect the information. Is that like GDPR compliant? Some people might ask and things like that. Can you talk to that a little bit? How it is to email people like comes there? You said it's not that much of a complaint rate and things like that. So I guess does that mean it's like compliant and things with the European things with GDPR and all this kind of stuff?
Sure. Look, I don't want to build a business that's illegal or anything because I like
Of
my
course,
life
of
and
course.
I don't want to go to
No,
jail.
but what I mean is like how this works, how this plays a role. Because with mass email, of course, you need like the intent to opt in. But this, I guess, is you don't send mass. It's like one-on-one. You basically email them because otherwise, I guess they need to opt in. If it's like you're sending via your email provider or something. But this is like a tool
Sure,
that you
sure, sure.
send like more one-on-one based emails, I assume.
So always check the laws of the country that you're doing business in. But what I can tell you is just in the example of Customers.ai doing like website to email list generation, this is fully GDPR
Mm-hmm.
compliant. And the way that it is GDPR compliant is that we eliminate any and all emails that are residing from people who are subject to the GDPR laws. So this would be our particular database contains mostly Americans and all the other countries where there aren't any regulations around this type of
Okay.
emailing.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying. That's good. That's for sure good to know. Yeah, but let's continue with this. This is great.
So my second big idea here is to leverage these crazy deliverability tools, which actually undermine the Google Promotions tab artificial intelligence. And so if you think about like the Promotions tab, how does it know to put your certain newsletters into the Promotions tabs versus going into the inbox? It's like a heuristic AI algorithm that kind of looks at engagement. If people are clicking and opening like crazy, then it'll more likely send to the inbox. If people are not engaging, deleting, or marking as spam, it's more likely to show up in either the promotion or spam inbox. And if you end up in the spam box, it's like, what was the point of doing all this work, right? Because if an email ends up in the promotion set, did you even send it at all? Like, how often do you check there? And so there's tons of these different, like, just if you Google the word email warm-up tools, there's like 101 of these crazy companies. Like, we don't do this because I would get in trouble with Google because we're a Google partner if I was doing this. But there are other companies that do this. And basically, I kind of describe how it works. It is that, these products, they just kind of, when you sign up for them, you get added to this big network of users. And then this network just sends emails to all from your account to all the other accounts on that network. And all these other accounts in the network send emails to you. Okay, so it's like a big circle of emails. It's ridiculous. But what happens is, like, it notices if one of your emails gets sent and lands in that spam folder. Okay, you see this? Like, see, one can send 150 emails, 149 landed in the inbox, one landed in the spam folder. And what these products do is they then pull the email out of the spam folder. You know how you can, like, look through the spam folder and say not spam, and then it goes into the inbox? This crazy thing will then send a signal by doing that to Google that it's not spam. And so Google it's kind of the Achilles heel of the Google spam tracking algorithm, because it doesn't like false positives. Like, if you got an important email from your mom or something and it marks it as spam and you miss it, that's like a real failure of the spam filter. You see what I'm saying? So they like to give you the benefit of the doubt if people are marking stuff as not spam. So anyways, it's just a crazy thing. It really does work. And when you combine this outreach, like the intent signals to increase the quality of your list, and then you combine that with these deliverability tools, you start to see these ridiculous results of like 50, 60, 70% open rates. So my third big idea, remember how I said this whole kind of strategy relies on 3 pillars. The third idea was this idea of customizing the email using generative AI, which is relevant to the topic of your summit here, generative AI strategies for creators. And that it's remarkably easy to make subtle yet massively impactful changes to the email copy that you're sending out, so that instead of sending out, say, 100,000 of the same emails, you're sending out 100,000 individually customized emails. And the way that you can kind of customize them is based on the identity, browsing history, and other data signals that you capture. As an example, Customers.ai also has a product called Consumer Directory. And so suppose your business is like a pool. I mean, this isn't the best example for creators and the creator economy, but like, just suppose you have a particular business and a prospect. What we can do using our consumer directories, we can look up that email and tell you everything about that prospect. Like, what's their credit rating? What's their address? What's their interest? Political leanings? What magazines do they subscribe to? Etc. It's just, we've got, just like how Facebook has like thousands of data points on individuals, that data, we have that data. So what you can do with that was almost nothing in the past. If you had such a deep understanding of your customer, it would be very difficult to, use that information in a clever way. But now that generative AI is here, there's like a really killer use case, which is to customize your email outreach at scale. And that is to use products. And there's I'm not saying Customers.ai is the only one. There's tons of them out there. But like, what you can do is say, like, hey, product, here's the generic outreach that I want to send. And here's what we know about this individual in terms of their identity, demographics, behaviors, and interests. And instead of sending a generic email to all of them, you can see what it generated. It says, swimming with sharks at 15 Howe Street. That's actually my address. And so it just says something like, as a resident of Dennis, Massachusetts, you're no stranger to these notorious shark sightings at nearby West Dennis Beach. This really cracks me up. The AI is so clever. It can insert these embellishments into the email that make it's such a delight to receive. and then reflect back your identity here. We know you're a busy man with interest in startups and two young kids at home, so let us handle the dirty work of cleaning of your maintaining your pool. Okay, so the way the marketing works is everyone likes to look in the mirror and they want to see like themselves reflected back, and so it's not just about increasing the intent of the email lists and deflecting the spam complaints through the warm-up tools. It's also about customizing the email copy at scale in such a way that people don't even want to report you as spam in the first place. You see what I'm saying here? Maybe. And there's, emailing is one of the interesting generative AI use cases for intent-driven outbounding. There are other use cases. Generative AI, what we do is we can, just like how you can generate an email, you can also generate a text message. How do you do that? Well, you just have it, the systems like Customers.ai can generate shorter generative text messages and then overlay sort of this AI to speech module that will convert it into like a human sounding voice that sounds perfect. And then we can drop that into people's voicemails.
So you have that built in. I didn't know that. So you have like a speech built in as well to the platform, so you can actually convert what you create with generative AI and the text into kind of a great sounding human voice.
Yeah, part of this is using Zapier, like I said, to it's like you kind of stitch together these. Right now, we're in the mad scientist phase here. This is the gold rush of the Wild West. Okay, like you got to be creative. Like there's products that do video sales letters, so that's where you take the generated copy and then just have the face talking, and it looks like they're saying exactly what it says. And
like I've seen like with 11 Labs and Hey Gen and these tools, it's pretty wild what you can do.
You got it. And then it's like 3 or 4% of companies have jumped on the bandwagon, and everyone else is so dumb. They're just using their old way of sending out the same email to 500,000 people, and they're wondering why they're getting like 5% open rates. This is really a big deal. Hyper-personalization at scale is here. Go ahead. There's tons of different products out there. Customers.ai is just one of them. And in summary, we've been talking about a lot of interesting topics today. But what I can tell you is that this AI-powered, intent-driven outbound marketing approach that I've kind of described to you, it really does work. If you look up the Inc. 5000 for 2023, Customers.ai is there. We were growing at something like, 600%. So it's some crazy number, and it's official. And what does it mean? Today, I was trying to popularize or familiarize yourself with this marketing concept that we've been developing internally in order to grow our own business, which is intent-driven outbound emailing. There were 3 components. Intent data. This has to do with thinking about the signals that your target customers give off before buying your products and services, then getting that data and leveraging that in the list generation process, which will then 10x the engagement signal. We talked about how these cookie deliverability tools really confuse the Google promotions tabs by sending, funny signals to their AI classification algorithms. And it's like an AI fighting another AI. It's crazy. And then the linchpin here was this idea of leveraging generative AI to create these delightful one-on-one personalized content experiences at scale. And when you combine these two, you get the best of both worlds, like really, really, really high engagement rates at really, really low cost of acquiring emails. We send out something like 500,000 emails, a month. Like that's great. And we can send more, but just to do that at a 60% open rate, it's just something that is really beautiful. Here it is. So this is actually a campaign, like a screenshot. Look at this here. It says 541,000 emails, 21% open and click rate, 0.4% bounce. We're going to do something better with this. We're going to figure out how to eliminate the bounces better. But then it's saying 10 spam reports, which is 0.00%. And then the reputation score.
Yeah, it's like nothing. That's crazy. You would get more, like when you're sending with your email provider, like they have opted into your list, they might get more. I mean, some depending on the list, you might get more spam complaints sometimes. So it's pretty good.
If you just grab a list from Zoomin or Apollo and start sending, the spam complaint will be like low single digits. It's going to be like 3, 4, 5%. Okay. MailChimp
Yeah.
requires, if you're using MailChimp, you can't get one complaint per 10,000 SAMs. So it's just
Wow. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
you asked about legality. What about CAN, spam, GDPR, CCPA, all that stuff? The important thing here is CAN spam, which is the law of the land for the United States. It has 5 or 6 requirements. I'm kind of describing them to you here. It says include an opt-out link in every email, honor your unsubscribe requests, don't use false headers, identify yourself clearly in the emails that you're sending, tell your recipients where your address is and where they can read about your privacy policies. Like, there's nothing in here. Like, some people think that CAN spam has something to do about, double opt-ins or something like this. Like, no. It's more about providing a right to opt out, which we fully support. And you have to do that because, like, if people are complaining about you, like, the damage that they can do to your email sending reputation by hitting the spam button, it can cause a lot of damage. So there's no incentive to not honor these unsubscribes. In fact, we recommend putting like multiple unsubscribes in an email, like to make it so easy for them to unsubscribe. And if you're confused about like why this law doesn't have what you thought it was, it's because most US laws have confusing names that mean nothing about what they actually do. The Patriot Act is actually like some kind of a legislation for spying on US citizens. The Inflation Reduction Act is some kind of a $2 trillion spending bill on pet projects that cause inflation, et cetera, et cetera. So CAN Spam Act, that it just requires company to honor opt-out requests. That's what that's about. And then my other big idea that I have for you today here, everyone, is if targeted outbound emailing is so hot, why even bother with this conventional dated notion of inbound newsletter emailing? So like, most of these creators and companies, like, they have this idea of a house list where you're kind of collecting emails from signups and stuff like this at a rate of like a handful a day. And it's like they're hoarding that list, like growing that over 5-10 years and still sending out periodic newsletters. What if I told you that effort is awful? And what I mean by this is that this is a screenshot of my actual Gmail inbox for my work address. All of these emails I've actually opted into. Like, I subscribe to the newsletters. So like, I'm a customer or something like that. It could be like ZoomInfo, Adobe, Gainsight, PitchBook, AppSumo, like Salesloft. All these companies I actually subscribe to, but none of them hit my primary inbox. And so the question would be like, well, why do these companies even bother doing this if they're getting like a 5 or 10% open rate? And so there is a way to have your cake and eat it too. And that idea is to leverage the power of targeted, like intent-driven targeted outbound emailing to revive or replace your completely dead inbound email list. Okay. Right? Because
There is something on this. I just have one comment on this. It was just interesting. I just thought of, because I think some traditional marketers, that's correct what you're saying. I think they have very low open rates and they're hitting the promo tab all the time. But then for sponsorship and stuff like that in newsletters, they need to prove their open rate. So I have seen creators like Justin Welsh is pretty big on LinkedIn and Twitter and things like that. He has like maybe 50-60%, like something crazy like that. And there's like Ali Abdal. They have very high open rates because I think their audience connect more with them. I don't know but I think there's like a select few if you provide a lot of value. If you market all the time, I think there's some differences. I think like with like core marketing lists, I do think it's like really bad open rates a lot of times. And I had a list before a few years ago when it like went down a lot after like I did summits and I had to mail for a lot of affiliate promotions. Then it just goes down naturally and you hit the promo tab a lot. So yeah.
So sure, some people are doing newsletters well and most people are doing it badly. Okay. And the question is like, how can we resurrect this effort so that it's not a waste of time? And the idea here is to use intent-driven outbound emailing. So that strategy that I just kind of described to you as a mechanism to revive and replace your dead inbound email lists. So what I mean by this is like, this is what happens when you send out a email engagement sequence. Okay. This is 3 emails. This is automatic email 1 on day 1, 3, and 5. The first email address, you see how it says like 58% open rate, 32% click rate, and like really high opt-outs, like 23.6% opt-out. Okay. That's what happens
Yeah.
all the time. The first email has the highest open clicks and also the highest opt-out. The second email that you send, it's still very high open email rate, still very high clicker rate, and a lower opt-out rate. The third email, it's the same thing. It falls from 40 to 30, 14 to 7% click. So this idea of email fatigue for most products and services, it might be different for creators because they might be more into certain people, whereas certain companies might, like, just because you're looking to buy something like last week, it doesn't mean you're still looking to buy it next week. You know what I mean? So this idea that email engagement rates.
Yeah, Larry, just sorry. I think it's the value add, right? It's also if you add a lot of value. Yes, people. I mean, I've also stayed on list forever where I don't even check the email. It's like that. So some emails are like that. You just maybe check them every once in a while. But then there are some email lists that actually they do put some effort behind it. And I think it's like with anything you do, if you put effort, you can get some better results. But I'm also curious to hear, maybe you have some insights on this. I had like, what if you haven't emailed your list for a while and you want to re-engage that list and you have them there, like without ruining your email reputation, right? Maybe they have been like a year, 2 years, like you had some list. What's the best way to actually get them back engaging with you or like opening these emails?
So I think what I'm about to say here is that you should just let them go. Here's the question. It says, like, so these email engagement rates, they do die off, like, in some cases very quickly. In some cases, if you're really, really good at what you're doing, maybe it dies off slower. But there is this idea of list fatigue that it's generally the case that it never goes the opposite direction. Like, it's not going from 50 to 60, 70, 80, 90. Like, it's in decline, right? So why should we, like, this notion of putting people on the list and keeping them there, like, and thinking that it doesn't hurt you is actually flawed, because there's a big difference between engaged new email recipients versus the older non-engaged email recipients, and where you should be focusing your efforts. Like you just said, like, what should I do with my old list from a year or two ago? And the thing here is that the engaged users, they open, they click, they reply, they forward, they never complain. That sends all the good juju signals to Gmail, and that's how the
And Larry,
process
I
happens.
just thought of something regarding this. You
Yeah.
can use like your main email. I mean, you have your main email address, you're sending the good emails, but you can use like another email which is not related to that one and just try to re-engage them. It doesn't hurt, right? If you have some emails, I mean, you have different domains, right? That would probably not hurt your main domain, I assume, because they are unrelated.
It won't hurt, but like, it's going to be hard because that
Mm.
unrelated domain will have to have strong enough reputation, IP and domain reputation, to maintain a good chance of hitting those inboxes. And so I'm trying to say
Mm-hmm.
that there's a stink of non-engaged users, which is like, you know, if they're not engaging, they're checked out, they don't open, they have a high complaint rate, they're not clicking opening. That's sending all the bad signals to Google. And so the mentality in email marketing today is, it's kind of what you're describing right now. You're thinking like, we should just resend things to people who didn't engage. One of the most celebrated features in MailChimp is this idea of resending an open campaign, like an unopened email campaign, to people who didn't engage in the first 24 hours. And what people don't realize is it's actually a really bad deal, because your engagement rate is a blend of kind of the new, it's a blend of crappy open rates from the older subscribers, is combined, blended with kind of the higher engagement rate of your newer subscribers, which have higher engagement rates. And so your overall delivery stats is kind of a combination of these good and bad personas. And so in order to improve your deliverability overall, what you actually want to do is not focusing on the donkeys and keep sending them more emails to these donkeys and hoping that the donkey will turn into a unicorn. You actually need to put them out to pasture. You need to eliminate and reduce those and figure out a way to get more of these kind of newer, fresher, higher engagement emails into your list. The problem is nobody knows how to do that. Otherwise, people would do this. Another problem is people, like, they work so hard to get these emails that they never want to let them go. And so The idea
This is so
is
common. This is Larry. This is so common. I think I love that you're saying this because I have here like a lot of marketers. They have sent to an opens during the affiliate promotion, like let's burn out the list kind of thing. They want to send. And I think I've done it before. You get higher open rates, but maybe that's sending the bad signal sometime to Google, especially if you
that.
don't change enough and things like that. I'm sure Google can identify that it's pretty much the same email.
So at the beginning of the presentation, I said, like, I'm going to try to challenge some of your assumptions of email marketing, keep an open mind. And so what I'm trying to say here is that if you understand how these email spam algorithms work, okay, you want to kill off these older, lower engagement emails, and you want to dramatically increase the high engagement new emails. And the way that we can do this is we can take the high engagers from the targeted outbound campaigns, like the ones who are clicking, opening, forwarding, and even if they didn't do a conventional opt-in, they're nevertheless showing kind of these high engager signals, which is what Google's looking to see. You can just feed that the artifact from your high engagement engagers from your intent-driven outbound emailing campaigns into your traditional email list. It's like getting a blood transfusion of new blood into the list at a very high rate. Okay, like not just one or two or three emails. Like you saw that we were doing, I don't know, 500,000 emails a month. I would say 20 to 25% of those are very high engagers among that 500,000. So like I could be growing my newsletter list by 125,000 people per month. Like the ones where you keep them in there for a long time and not just send them one or two emails. And that will then resurrect the deliverability of the rest of my newsletter list. Are you following me here?
Yeah, no, I don't think a lot of people are talking about it in this way, which is interesting because I do think like a lot of people, they burn out their list over time. And you say like they have a very short attention span, maybe so you need to get more new people on there. But like when they are on there, you need to engage them. You don't want them to, you want to keep them there for a long time because it can take a while for them to become a customer, right, of your product. It doesn't mean they come on the list and buy instantly. That can take months. I had someone on my list for like a year or two before they ever bought from me, right? So it's important to also nurture the people who come on to that list. But if I understand it correctly, these can work kind of hand in hand, like the outbound, what you're doing, and with the newsletter list kind of work to kind of grow this together in a way. So that's really interesting.
You're taking the high engagers from the outbound and dumping them into the
Yeah,
the house newsletter
exactly.
list, which then
Yeah.
raises the average engagement of your newsletter list, which then improves the
And sending
delivery
the
of
right signals. Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Okay.
that's awesome. I love it. This is great.
And so one of the innovations that we've created here at Customers.ai is something called a signs of life detector, SOLD, signs of life detector. It's just kind of an algorithm that we use. And that is like, how do you know if someone is safe to add to your house list? And the answer is just send them one email, okay, and see what happens. Do you get a good open, click, forward reply signal on the first email? If you do, then it's generally considered safe to push that into like MailChimp or something like that. People don't really, they're just not factoring into how the Google spam classification algorithm works. It's sending more to non-engagers is actually a destructive proposition from your kind of sending score perspective. So it's just saying like, we can help you design these types of automations where you're focusing on sending more emails to people who care about the product and less about people who don't care about it. And that is the winning strategy here. So just wrapping this up, intent-driven outbound emailing, not only is it an incredible go-to-market channel on its own, it can also substantially, when used in conjunction with your house emailing lists, it can breathe life back into those dead lists and improve the deliverability of your kind of more conventional inbound emailing efforts. Thank you so much for joining me on this epic journey from Donkey Land to Unicorn Land, where we covered a whole bunch of interesting topics. I believe interesting. I hope you found it interesting. We talked about like how inbound emailing and newsletters are silly because the Google promotions tab is pretty good at sensing like, oh, this is the same email that you just emailed 100,000 times. I can tell that it's a newsletter. I'm going to put it in the promotions tab. That's not a hard thing for Google to do. And traditional outbounding doesn't work either, because if you just pull a list from Apollo or ZoomInfo and start emailing them, like they'll shut you down pretty quickly as well. And so we talked about leveraging this idea of intent-based outbound email strategies with intent data, with warm-up tools, with generative AI copy to be kind of this intent-driven outbounding solution for a very scalable, cost-effective, and overall effective go-to-market. We also talked about donkey elimination, so that now that we know how the spam filters work, you really should work harder to remove the dead weight from your email lists of people. You can leave them on for 2 years, as you said, but what matters is, are they engaging in that 2-year period? Like, it's very rare that somebody will stay dormant for 2 years and suddenly become a customer. What's more often, if someone's going to become a customer, it's like there's going to be some engagement along the journey. Okay. And if you don't sense like any engagement after several emails, you might actually be better off throwing that away for the sake of improving the deliverability of the other emails on your list. I'm not suggesting you just eliminate your list to nothing. You should replace the emails that you delete with, the high engagers from your intent-driven outbound campaigns, and kind of infuse those into those lists, and then just kick up your feet and enjoy the astonishing results of this kind of tactic and strategies that I've been sharing with you today. Thank you, AI for Creator attendees. Thanks for having it.
Yeah.
Questions here.
Larry, I appreciate this. You're coming on and sharing. This is great. And just as we're wrapping this up, just a final question on this. What's really your number one piece of advice you would give to creators or solopreneurs who want to get started when it comes to implementing AI in their business? Can be related to what we talked about today, or something more to generative AI and things like that.
I think taking a step back, I think even today, like we're, call it a year or two into this AI revolution, people are still horrible at prompt generation, and still have very small understanding of what can actually be done by these systems. Today, I just suggested like you can actually use AI to figure out the emails and contact information of your website visitors. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's just such an abundance of use cases and prompts that you can use that I think is poorly understood. And so, I think they're doing the right thing by attending your summit and learning from other experts on, different use cases and ways to leverage AI today. And it's just mostly education, right?
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. This was great final words. And I'll link up some resources. Of course, go check out Customers.ai and leave your biggest takeaways in the comments too. If this is revolutionary for you, what do you think about what Larry just shared here throughout this presentation? And subscribe to the channel for more like this video if you enjoy this type of content. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now.